this is Shimmergloom from Warseer with my first YouTube battle report. This will be game 1 of a 2,500 point tournament, Orcs vs Empire, using the scenario battle line. This tournament was played at Atomic Empire. Atomic Empire, where you may work in space, but you play your games at Atomic Empire. Now let's take a quick look at my army list. Some things you'll notice is that I am trying out some items like the Featherfoe Torque. We have quite a few Warriors players locally, combined with the new High Elf book, and this seems like a decent defense. But when you know it, none of the 3 Warrior players who were able to sign up were able to make it at the last minute. So I won't really get a good idea about how this item works. Also, you'll notice the inclusion of some Storm of Magic units. This tournament allowed you to take up to 250 points from Storm of Magic, with a 0 to 2 max selections, and nothing to contain a magic level. I like the choice of Harpies as it gives Greenskins some quick flyers, and I gave them the Magical Flamin' and Poison Attack upgrades. And finally, since it seems with the new fast armies that most of the rest of us are forced to be a bit more defensive, I've forgone the usual Savage Orc horde for a horde of regular Orc biggins. I took these first 2 picks right after the Vanguards. When you take a look at my Empire opponent, you'll notice he has a large unit of Inner Circle Knights. They include an Arc Lector and BSB. He also has a level 4 Light Wizard and a unit of Skirmishing Archers. He also has 2 units of Demigryphs. The red ones have the Flaming Banner. Then he has 2 units of Great Weapon Empire Knights, 2 cannons, 2 steam tanks, and 2 units of Harpies. Unlike my 2 units, these don't have the poison upgrade. With the terrain, the Sphinx, which was impassable, and the large pyramid that we treated as a building, was sort of funneling him into a more centered deployment, where he was less able to bring his full strength at me. So I put my heavier support to the left around the ruins, so I could try and have them swing around easier, without having to worry about the marsh and the Sphinx, which would be slowing them down. And I also did the good old trick of putting your best war machines behind trolls. That makes him mostly impossible to kill with cannons on the first turn. And I needed those Doom Divers to survive with all the knights he had on the table. Empire turn 1, you'll notice he really doesn't move up his main units very much, mainly just moving up his support. I think most people still think that Orcs and Goblins are going to, rush at him all the time. And lately I've been picking my moments when to do this, because there's still a lot of times you want to do that. But in certain situations like this, when you're facing a lot of fast knights, you kind of want to be more defensive. When we go to his magic phase, he tries to do a banishment on my right Mangler. I'm able to dispel this, but I have to burn my staff to do it. He does get a burning gaze off on it, and he does 1 wound to it. In shooting his first cannon, of course it misfires right off the bat and blows up, and just panics the cannon next to it so that it can't shoot this turn. In this next pick, you'll just see another angle of everything, how it moved. And in steam tanks, I think one of them tried to shoot at my Mangler here in the ruins but missed. And the other tank, I think it also tried to shoot at the other Mangler, but it overshot it and really just did nothing. Now, Orc turn 1, you'll see that I charge my right Wolf Riders at his Harpies. They flee, but they're not able to get away. I cut them down and I stop right in front of his cannon that's on the hill. And I charge my Wolf Chariot just over at the marsh at his other Harpies. They flee and get away. And to top it off, I charge my Wolf Riders there at the obstacle into the flank of his Knights just for the heck of it. So, maybe they can win. I try to get my Mangler here to get to his Harpies, go through them and the Knights that were there at the Sphinx. I'm not able to do that. It only goes 4 or 5 inches. In Magic, I try to boost a foot of Gork onto his big Knight bus, and he's able to dispel it. When we get to shooting, both my Doom Divers go at his red Demigryphs, and I'm able to kill one of them. And this is all made up for by the fact the Spirit Checkers over here at the marsh. One of them it has a flank shot on those Knights that used to be there at the Sphinx. I need a 5 or 6 to hit. I hit, and then I proceed to go right down the line, kill one after the other. It's one of those things you don't ever plan for it, but when it happens, you wind up loving Chuckers forever, and then you just want to take them forever just because of that. And then just to get here to the one little combat, I lose one Wolf Rider to a failed dangerous terrain test, and I do no damage to him. He does no damage to me, and he just reforms to face me. If Empire turn 2, he takes his steam tank and just like rumbles it right into the rear of those Wolf Riders that are on the hill. He also rallies his harpies that were there, and otherwise he just moves up his units a bit. In Magic, I'm able to stop the stuff he uses to try to kill my Mangler that's sitting there right there in front of those little Harpy unit. But then in shooting, he just, shoots his cannon and kills it, and then Steam Tank destroys the Wolf Chariot that was right there in front of the marsh. And in combat, not much happens. I mean, their only combat is there with the Wolf Riders, and he's able to wipe them out with his Empire Knights. We have Orc and Goblin turn 2, and you can see this turn is pretty much a disaster for him. I charge my trolls and my squigs at his knights, and he holds. Then I charge my little wolf chariot that's remaining at his harpies, and he flees them. I'm able to redirect into his steam tank, but he has to take panic tests. He passes the one for his demigryphs, but then his Arc Lector unit, I mean not Arc Lector unit, his Wizard Lord unit with the archers, they roll a 10, then a 10 on the reroll, and so they have to flee, and then they roll a 10 to flee, so they go right off the table. So 3 10s in a row, you can't ever believe that's gonna ever happen, and so that unit's just completely taken out of the game. And other than that, in Magic, I just use a Hand of Gork to try to get my Mangler over here in front of his demigryphs, just to try to keep them from all being able to gang up on one unit. In shooting, I concentrate my Doom Divers and Chuckas on his big knight unit, and you can see, he goes from 13 models to just 6. They panic and they roll double 10s on the panic test, and they start fleeing. So it's just his lines are completely broken apart now. And then my trolls just come in here and they vomit all over his knights and wipe them out. I mean, the only good thing that really happens for him is my squigs aren't able to overrun into the flank of his demigryphs. But otherwise, this entire turn was just pretty much a disaster for him. Empire turn 3, he charges his red demigryphs at my trolls. He's able to get around the Mangler, so he doesn't have to go through it to do it. He also takes his steam tank here and just crashes into the flank of my squig herd. When we get to Magic, well, he didn't have Magic anymore. He just has an Arc Lector. He was able to rally his knight unit, and he just tries to give them a 5+ ward. I dispel that, and I let through the thing where it lets him reroll hits and wounds, because that really doesn't matter. I mean, this knight unit, the Doom Divers did such a number on it last turn, and even one of the Spirit Chuckers killed 1 or 2 models too, so they're not really effective, for right now. When we get to shooting, his cannon tries to shoot at my Mangler, and it misses. Getting into combat, his first tank here, you can see it really grinds into my squigs. But I'm steadfast and I reform. I pass and then I reform to face him. I really don't know why I reformed. I take myself out of BSB range doing this, and it was probably better for me just to stay the way I was, and I'm not really having any hope of killing that tank. And then when we go to the troll combat, since he has Flaming Banner, he kills 2 trolls, does 2 wounds to the next one. I'm able to vomit and kill one troll. Not one troll. I'm able to kill 1 demigryph. And this is good enough to keep me being steadfast, and so I'm able to pass my chest, and then I reform. And then the real champion of this whole game right now, for me in combat, is this little wolf chariot here. It's been holding up the steam tank the whole game, basically. I mean, this turn he misfires when he tries to do a steam point, and he winds up with no steam points, so he can't grind or do anything to me. So it's just a tie combat, and he just stuck there. Going into Orc and Goblin turn 3, first I start off my Black Orc has to kill a couple of big ones here so they can move around from animosity failure. Then I try to charge my Harpies at his cannon on the hill, and they fail. I charge my big unit into the flank of his demigryphs. I just want to make sure they're gone just in case that tank breakthroughs on either side there. I just want those Demogryphs gone. Then I see my Mangler here. It goes right through his Demogryphs here and stops right in front of his Knight unit. His Demogryphs, they fail, panic, and they flee. He just can't pass any of his leadership tests. It's really, really crazy. His Harpies, of course, there is Harpies saying that they passed their panic test. Going into shooting, no, going into magic, I try to do a Photogork on his cannon on the hill, and I make it, but it does no damage. And then I try to cast an Ere We Go on my my Orcs there, and I miscast, and I have the little small template. I do no damage to my Shaman, but I kill like 3 or 4 more Orcs. And the 2 trolls that touch, they both pass their regen test. So going into shooting, I'm able to kill one, just this time just one more of his knights from his knight unit, and no other damage I'm able to do to him. And we go into combat. I think I'll do 1 or 2 wounds to his tank over here with my squigs. My chariot does nothing. And then I'm able to wipe out his Demogryphs, and he's able to kill 1 troll with his Demogryphs first. And basically right now it's like a mop-up operation here because he's not really in a position to do much. I have Empire turn 4. He starts out by charging his Harpies into the flank of my chariot. He has to go through my Mangler to do this. He kills the Mangler, but I'm only able to kill 4 of his Harpies, and then he passes his panic test. Other than that, he rallies his Demogryphs, and he really has nothing, his Arc Lector can much do in magic. I think I let it get through where he gets to reroll hits and wounds, but that doesn't really matter. And then in shooting, he tries to shoot his cannon at the Harpies that are threatening it, and he aims like 6 inches in front of it, and then he rolls a 2 and a 2, so he doesn't even make it to the Harpies. He's just having one of those kind of games. When we get into combat, he grinds some more onto my squigs, and he's finally able to kill that wolf chariot. It held up forever, so you can't complain about that. A 50-point chariot holding up a 300-point steam tank. And that's pretty much the end of his turn right here. With Orc and Goblin turn 4, I charge my Harpies into his cannon, and that's pretty much it. I think about charging my Biggins into his one little Harpy to make it flee away, and then I figured I really don't want to get my Biggins into that steam tank. It still has 7 wounds left on it. I really don't have much chance of killing it. It's probably best for me not to, try to mess with it right now. So I really do no other charges. Going into magic, I get Photogork off. I stomp down 3 times on his knight unit. I kill all his knights, his Arc Lector, and I do 1 wound to his BSB. It's just sometimes, Photogork just does that. In other games it does nothing. And then in shooting, I use my Doom Divers at his remaining Demogryph unit, and I kill 2 out of the 3. And pretty much he's lost just about everything at this point other than his tanks. And in combat, he just grinds. Well, there's no grinding from him. He's just he's unbreakable, so I can't break him. And then my Harpies destroy his cannon. Going into Empire turn 5, he basically just decides to go ahead and concede. He could try to take his own tank into my Biggins, but it's unlikely he's even going to win that combat. And if he does, I'd be steadfast on 9. And I think even if that unit ran away, it'd still be on the table. So pretty much the only choice he really has is just to concede. There's really no point in continuing on. And there we have is a victory for the Orcs. This is just one of those games where you feel like you played really well and you feel like you did the best you could, but at the end of the game, your opponent, he's failed so many leadership tests, needing 9s, and rolled so many 10s that you don't really feel too good about what you did. You just feel like, the game wasn't complete because they had failed so much that, any good tactics you might have done kind of get lost in the entire thing. And for him, he said that he felt like he had messed up on his deployment and he packed his stuff in too much. And that was pretty much true. He was kind of forced to by that Sphinx being there. And I had asked him why he put his harpies in so close, because I had put mine on the corners because I was just terrified of failing, panic tests. Because while like with dark elves, they get to ignore harpy panic. You don't get to ignore harpy panic with the storm of magic harpies. But he had felt like since he didn't give his poison, he would lose the harpy wars to my harpies, and he just didn't want to have them on the corners. And I can understand that, but I mean, I would have been too worried about the panic test, and that's kind of what cost him the game. And there we have it, my first YouTube battle report. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe and comment and let me know how I might be able to improve my future reports. I'll have my second report up soon. It'll be against High Elves. And thanks for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Till next time.